Welcome to today's episode of the J&J podcast. I'm Jamie,
This is Jameson.
and we want to welcome all of our listeners in. Did you miss us? We were on hiatus last week because both of us were traveling, but we are back and want to jump into a couple of things that happened while we were away. And we're going to start with something that is, for lots of people, very controversial. But Jameson and I have lots of thoughts about this. And we're going to start with the NFL and the Shedeur Sanders situation. So, Jameson, you want to kick that off or you want me to kick it off?
I'm gonna let you kick it off.
Okay. Um, so everybody knows what happened with Shedeur Sanders at this point. The fact that he was a projected top 10 pick and he fell to number one, what was it, Jameson?
144 in the fifth round.
144 in the fifth round. So, and I don't, we have comments, we say things, and just a reminder for all of our listeners, if you recall, when we first started this podcast, we said we say the things that a lot of people don't want to say or that a lot of people are scared to say. We're not afraid to say it, and so we're going to probably sound controversial when it comes to this, but it is what it is. There's no reason why Shedeur Sanders should have fallen that far, and here's what I'm simply going to say. The NFL always wants to create and paint a narrative, especially when it comes to black athletes. They always want it to be he dug it out of the mud story. They always want to create this narrative about, yeah, this guy's hungry because, he didn't come from anything, single parent home. That is what the NFL likes to promote. The truth of the matter is, Shedeur Sanders came from a good family, a two-parent home. And when I say a good family, I'm not saying that the kids who come from a one-parent home aren't from a good family. But what society and what this country considers a good family is the typical two-parent household, kid who worked hard, really intelligent, did everything the right way, but they don't want to celebrate that. But they only want to celebrate that when the complexion isn't a black complexion. Let's
Yep.
just put it that way. I'm going to say it the way I want to say it. They'll celebrate it when it's somebody who's not black. Shedeur Sanders has both parents. Came from a good home. Doesn't necessarily need the money to play in the NFL, but worked his butt off and should have been a top 10 pick. This was simply the NFL telling him, we're going to humble you because you need to know your place.
Yep.
He didn't come from a background where he had to really dig it out of the mud. He didn't come from that type of background. He's not the narrative that the NFL wants to write and create. He came from a good family, worked hard,
Dad, I'm gonna throw
smart
this
young
in
man.
there. If a white quarterback put up the numbers that he did at Colorado, they would have
He's
been
the
the
number
first.
one
He's
pick.
the number one pick even over Cam Ward. As simple as that.
Absolutely. It's that simple. So this whole narrative about, oh, he needs to be humble. No, it's not about him being humble. It's about the fact that he was confident. Y'all call, I mean, and when I say y'all, you know who I'm talking about. The owners, the GMs, the people who are on TV constantly running their mouths, saying that he needs to be humble. He has been humble. Couldn't have done things any better than
Nope.
what he did. What you wanted him to say was, yeah, I'm grateful to be here and I'm thankful. And he said those things, but you wanted him to say, I'm hungry and I need this. That's not what he did because he knew where he came from. His dad prepared him for all of that.
Yep.
And the NFL doesn't know how to handle that. So instead of doing the right thing and drafting him as a top 10 pick like he should have been, you used it as an opportunity to say, yeah, you still need to know your place. And I'm going to use words that harken back to the 50s and the 60s. They still said, you need to know your place, boy. And that's essentially what the NFL just did. It was literally right in front of our eyes.
Yep.
They told him, yeah, you're smart. Your dad did the right thing. Your dad is a Hall of Famer, but you didn't answer the questions. You didn't talk the way we want you to talk. And so we're going to humble you. So at the end of the day, it's a bunch of bull. That's what it really boils down to. Shedeur Sanders will still excel in the NFL
I
because he
agree.
has the goods. He's a great quarterback. All this talk about, oh, he doesn't have the arm strength, all that mess. It's amazing to me, and then Jameson, I'll pass it over to you.
No,
It's
you're good.
amazing to me that how many was it? Three or four wide receivers that got drafted from Colorado?
All of them
Who?
did. Who was throwing
All
the
of them.
football?
Who was throwing him the football?
Yep.
So this is literally simply about the owners, and I'm using that word. There's another word I'd like to use because that's what y'all want to be.
Yep.
And that there was collusion. There's no doubt about it. This wasn't about him not being humble or him not doing well in the interviews. That's the narrative that the NFL wants to create. And this was simply to let Shedeur Sanders know, to let Deion Sanders know, yeah, you make a lot of money, you're a Hall of Famer, but to us, you're still a boy. And I'm using that word in place of another word,
Yep.
and y'all know what that word is.
Yep.
So that's what I have to say about it. I think it's a shame. He still is for the Cleveland organization. Jersey sales out of the roof. Everybody knows. Nobody else was talking about the other quarterback that was selected. All the players, and this just goes to show you, everybody knows what time it is. The players who were talking about the quarterbacks were all talking about Shedeur, saying ready to get to work, ready to ball out with you. It wasn't about the other quarterback who was actually drafted ahead of him, because
Yep.
we all know that quarterback can't run rings. Shedeur Sanders run rings around that
Yep.
other quarterback. So I'm saying it. I know it's controversial. I know some people might don't want to hear it, but I really don't care because we live now in a time where everybody is emboldened to say what they want to say. But when somebody black wants to say what they want to say, when somebody black actually has something intelligent to say, it's, oh, he's being arrogant, he's too cocky, he needs to be humbled. No, he doesn't. He needs to go play football, and y'all
Yep.
should have drafted him to do just that. That's the way I feel about it.
Yep.
So I could keep going on and on. I really, really could, and I could use some other words, but I'm not going to. So Jamison, I'll pass it along to you.
Nah, honestly, what you just said, I couldn't have said even much better. Honestly, I echo your sentiments, and here's what I'm gonna say about Shedeur, just even from a talent perspective. I'm gonna just name you the quarterbacks that were drafted above Shedeur Sanders, and you tell me if they're better than him. I'm just gonna tell you flat out to go through the list. Cam
Yeah.
Ward, I get it. Cam Ward was the
Yep.
consensus number one pick. I get that. They even interviewed Cam Ward, and guess who he said was the second best quarterback after him? Shedeur
Shedeur.
Sanders.
Yes.
They worked out together. They're close friends. Jackson Dart, the New York Giants. That's why the New York Giants will continue to be a poverty organization. Bump their
Absolutely.
coach, bump their GM, bump their owners. That's why, first of all, you lost Saquon. Look what happened the year that he left. Wins the Super
Yep.
Bowl. You literally trade up and draft Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart.
Meanwhile, you're telling Shador and others in his camp that you're going to move up to
Yep.
draft him.
Literally, Shedeur Sanders the entire year. There was even a game that he played for Colorado where he wore New York Giants colored cleats. So he had the mindset of, oh, I'm going to the Giants, worst case. So
Because that's what they had told him.
they literally trade up. They draft Jackson Dart, who I'm telling you right now, he's going to be worse than Daniel Jones. How do you go from Daniel Jones to somebody who's a Daniel Jones 2.0 and trade up for the brother? That's what makes it worse.
He's actually a Daniel Jones 1.5. He's not even a 2.0.
He's not even a 2.0. And it's no
Yeah.
disrespect. I'm not saying Jackson Dart's going to be terrible, but he ain't Shedeur Sanders. And then after Jackson Dart gets drafted by the Giants, the New Orleans Saints end up drafting Tyler Show. I can't even pronounce the brother's last name. But here's what I'm going to tell you. He already has an injury history, and he literally put up worse numbers than Shedeur Sanders. So that right there with the 40th pick. It's like Shedeur. He shouldn't have fallen out the first round, but I promise you, even second round, you would think that he would get drafted. Then next, you know I'm a fan of this brother. But Jalen Milroe for the Seahawks. I think Jalen Milroe is going to be a fantastic quarterback at the NFL in the NFL. But he's not better than Shedeur Sanders. There are questions about his arm talent. And he got drafted above Shedeur Sanders, who had a better completion rating, more yards, and more total passing touchdowns. How does that
Now
happen?
you know what folks are going to try to argue. Well, those stats, this, that, and the other. Here's the truth of the matter. Shador is doing this behind a putrid offensive
Yes,
line. Let's
literally,
just be honest.
literally, Shedeur Sanders looked like Bryce Young did this past year at
Yes,
Colorado. His
running
line
for his
sucks,
life. Yes.
and he didn't have a run game. Jalen Milroe literally played for Alabama. Come
and
on
was
now,
still an accurate
come
quarterback.
on, man. And then the one that really just irked my nerves, man. The real one that really just got on my nerves is Dylan Gabriel. And it's no
Oh my
disrespect to Dylan Gabriel, but he's another Tua Tagovailoa, but worse. And here's what I'm gonna say about Dylan Gabriel.
He might be. Listen, he might be a terrible version of Drew Brees because I mean the brother is short. Let's just be honest.
He's also, too, I'm just going to be honest with you. A lot of lefties are not successful in the NFL unless you're Michael Vick.
Yep.
Just keeping it a stat with you. There haven't been
Yep.
a lot of good, successful lefty quarterbacks outside of Michael Vick and Steve Young. If we just keep it at a stat.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm gonna
Mark
say about
Brunell
there's
actually
some
had a
there's some
decent
there's some
career.
names, but
Yeah.
nobody crazy. Patrick Mahomes,
Agreed.
Tom, you know what I'm saying? Like some of
Yeah.
these names, Lamar, Josh Allen, these are right-handed quarterbacks.
Uh-huh.
Jalen Hurts.
And you know how we feel about left-handers because we both are.
Yeah, but at the same
But
time,
we're
it's
just
just
keeping
like
it a stack.
look what's been successful. And
Exactly.
then Dylan Gabriel. But what makes it worse is the Browns draft Dylan Gabriel and then wait another round and a half to then draft Shedeur Sanders.
Yep.
It's blatant disrespect. And here's what I'm gonna
It
say.
is.
Looking at the Browns roster right now, you have Deshaun Watson, which I love. I used to love Deshaun Watson, but he just got to be able to walk again. At this point, the brother, he's hurt his ACL, he tore his Achilles. It's like he's got to be able to actually stay on the field. So he's not playing this season. They signed Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco literally played with Jim Brown. So it's about time for him to go and hang up those cleats. And then
Absolutely.
you have Dylan Gabriel, who, even though you drafted above Shedeur, literally to your point, Denzel Ward, half the Browns roster, they didn't tweet nothing whenever Dylan Gabriel got drafted. The second
Not
Shedeur
one
got
word.
drafted, it was, oh, let's get to work. Let's rock. Let's be legendary. You get what I'm saying? So it's
That's
like,
right.
literally your locker room has already shown you who they want to play. So to your point, I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a success story in the NFL. I think it'd be similar to Tom Brady. I'm not saying he's about to be the best quarterback of all time, but Tom Brady was drafted in the fifth round, and you see what's happened with that. It's like Shedeur Sanders can have a similar story in my opinion. But here's what I will say: the only thing I hate about this situation is the Browns do not know how to develop quarterbacks. That's my only concern for Shedeur Sanders because think about it. And here's what I'm also saying, going back to the confidence and stuff like that. Johnny Manziel was literally doing drugs, an alcoholic, didn't even study the playbook, and was a top and it was a first round draft pick, ironically, to the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield driving under the influence, alcohol problems while he was at Oklahoma, was the first overall pick. So
literally stomping in the middle of the field on the opponent's.
That's what I'm saying. A
on
bunch
the
of
opponent's logo,
controversy.
grabbing his junk, walking around. But no. You know what that is? That's competitive.
That's competitive. He has a
he's
competitive nature.
competitor.
He's a leader.
Yeah,
He's a
he's a
leader.
leader. He's competitive.
He's a
but when
leader.
Shedeur Sanders, who did none of those things,
Nope.
none of those
Stayed out of
things,
trouble. Nothing.
stayed out of trouble, literally is the epitome of a leader. You call it arrogance, and you call
Just
it
like
being
you know how I
cocky.
knew it was bad? Literally the day after he got drafted, why do I turn on ESPN and they're talking about, oh, he had a big after party with a bunch of celebrities and was gifted money? First off, they had the story wrong, but second off, I'm like, if the brother wants to celebrate getting drafted, one of the biggest days of his life, why can't he do that?
Right.
It's no problem when Rob Gronkowski goes out and gets drunk at parties. They want to celebrate that. He's a commentator now. But when Shedeur Sanders goes out there at parties, doesn't get into trouble, by the way. Not driving under the influence, nothing crazy like that.
None of that.
He's cocky, he's arrogant, he needs to focus on football. But literally when he does focus on football, look at the numbers. We were talking about it for months. There was at one point in the season where I thought Shedeur Sanders could have won the Heisman. So how do you go from that to literally your teammate that you threw the football to won the Heisman and you're a 5th round draft pick? Make it make sense.
We know why.
It's
And that's
absolutely
why.
insane.
That's why I addressed what I addressed at the very beginning.
Yep.
And I don't care if anybody gets upset.
No.
It doesn't matter to me.
And the thing
Doesn't matter.
is, we're spitting facts. So it's like if you're upset
Absolutely.
at that, you need to look in the mirror.
That's right. Bottom line. Oh, by the way, Brady was drafted in the 6th round.
Sixth
So
round.
same thing.
But
Same
same,
scenario.
but same difference to just like overlook. But the Shedeur Sanders situation is way worse. Like Tom Brady was good in college, but he won't know Shedeur Sanders in college. Like
No.
Tom Brady has exceeded everybody's expectations. We're literally talking about a brother that should have been at least bare minimum a 1st round draft pick, even if he won't top 10. You get what I'm saying? That's crazy.
Completely agree.
Yep.
Totally. Well, I think we've talked about this. I know that there have been folks who have pontificated and they've had discussions around this. They've talked about what he should have done. And by the way, I'm paying a very, very close attention to some of these so-called commentators who were ex-football players. And I'm looking at y'all sideways. And you know who you are. One of you is on ESPN. You play for the Cowboys. I won't mention names, but you know who you are. because you're scared to say what the truth is because you got a job to do. You don't want to upset the apple cart. I get it. I understand that, but call a spade a spade. Let's just be honest. We know what's going down. We
Yep.
know what's happening. So we'll move on. Talking about one bad situation and another. So Shannon Sharp was right. It was Lakers in five. They
Losing.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost in five. I have lots to say about that, but I know you've got a whole bunch to say. The floor is yours, my brother.
Well, here's what I'm gonna say. First of all, I was very disappointed, but before I get into the Lakers' struggles, I wouldn't be a good man if I didn't tip my hat off to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chris Finch, he came out, he outcoached JJ Redick, unfortunately. But yeah, he outcoached JJ Redick, and then on top of that, I'm gonna just be honest with you, and he's also my moving the needle, but Anthony Edwards, that brother is the face of the NBA right now. I don't care what anybody says. I know there's Jokic, I know there's Shea, but that brother wants it. I ain't seen killer like this at such a young age since Michael Jordan and Kobe. I'm just keeping it a stack with you. This brother is 24 years old and will go give you 40, lock you up on the other end, and then do a victory lap at Staples Center. I ain't never seen that in my life from a 24-year-old. That brother, Anthony Edwards, that brother is special, bro. I'm telling you. You know I've always been a fan, but just seeing what he did firsthand to LeBron, and that's the thing. Anthony Edwards ain't running from no smoke. He did the same thing to KD last year. KD was literally his role model, his favorite player growing up. Gave him the business. LeBron
and then talk to him.
Didn't let him know about it. That's what I love. Anthony Edwards talks crazy, but then we'll go drop 40 and lock you up. I'm telling you. Like, literally watching what he did to LeBron, and I get it, people going to say LeBron. You know I'm a huge LeBron fan. LeBron's 40, but and also, I'm not putting the blame on LeBron. LeBron had a fantastic series. It wasn't his fault. But the Minnesota Timberwolves, between Nas Reed, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, and Lord have mercy, where was this Julius Randle throughout the regular season? This Julius Randle, he looked like he was an all-star again for the Knicks. No trouble.
Well, I don't listen. That's what really surprised me. Because you and I have talked about him, and I was saying how basically
that cat
Knicks
trade, they fleeced him. Yeah.
Well,
But even too, the other part of that trade, Dante DiVincenzo, that brother finally started playing some good basketball again. So it's like, honestly, the Timberwolves, even though they were the 6th seed, we were the 3rd seed going into that series, that was just a terrible matchup for us. Like, we would have been better playing against Golden State because the Lakers' problem was we had no size. Like, LeBron had to play the 5, and then here's what I'm going to say, too. You know I love Luka Doncic. He's young, but, brother, you were feeding into what Nico Harrison and some of them in the Mavericks organization were saying about you. Brother, you cannot average 32 points a game but then be a liability on defense, bro. They were literally picking on Luka Doncic. It was so bad.
As you would say, whoever offense on Luka.
It was so bad. I saw a Jaden McDaniels highlight tape. The brother literally 95% of his points in his 30-point game were on Luka Doncic. It was an ISO situation. I'm like, brother, when Jaden McDaniels feels that he can ISO you and look like Kevin Durant, that's a problem. This offseason, and I've said it for the longest time, I love Luka Doncic. And this is what's so scary about the brother. The brother's not in shape, and he's averaging 32 on offense. And I did see the report that Luka is supposedly going to be playing for Slovenia this offseason. And I see people complaining, Lakers fans, like, oh, well, he's going to risk injury. No, Luka Doncic needs to play basketball this entire offseason because here's how I look at it on the flip side. If he doesn't come into next season for the Lakers healthy and in shape, he's going to then risk injury furthermore. Like, whenever you're trying to, like, work yourself back into shape, you're playing heavy minutes, you're playing back-to-backs, that's when you're bound to tear a hamstring, pull a hamstring, hurt a calf, do something crazy. If you're in shape, like, Luka Doncic, people don't realize the brother is 25, 26 years old. You should not be coming into any NBA season as a professional athlete out of shape. Prime example was...
No argument.
No, prime example was, look at Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is 24, 25 years old. The brother was not tired not one time in that series. The brother and he plays both sides of the basketball. He'll go, like I said, he'll give you 40, and then he's gonna also guard either your second or third best player. Sometimes your best player. So Luka Doncic, I love the brother. I hope the Lakers sign him to a long-term contract. But on the flip side, if your best player on your team cannot play defense, you're not winning a championship. I don't care who it is. That's not a recipe for success.
Well, here's what I will say, and this is going to be sound somewhat controversial.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm just gonna say it. Had we had AD in this series, again, it's about matchups. We would have won that series had we had AD.
Well, here's what I'm gonna say.
Um,
Here's what I'm gonna say to
I,
that because we talked
I'm
about it
just
earlier.
saying, yeah,
There's two things with that. If AD came to play, first off, because I think on the defensive side of the basketball, I'm not concerned about that. But AD has had his lapses on offense. But here's what I'm also saying: Austin Reeves needs to play better. He needed to play better,
absolutely,
whether we had AD or Luka. Austin Reeves, and I will say this: in his defense, he was getting some tough matchups defensively. Like Austin Reeves is at his best when he can ISO sometimes the second or third best player on the team. He was being guarded by DiVincenzo, J.D. McDaniel, sometimes Anthony Edwards, so I get it. But on the flip side, I'm like, brother, you can't go from getting 20, 21, 30, 35 points in the regular season to just becoming like an absolute scrub come playoff time.
yeah,
Like he was in,
exactly,
and that's what hurt me. I'm like, brother, the nights when Luka didn't have it going, like that night when Luka was sick, wasn't feeling well. I'm like, you got to step up, bro.
yep.
Like, or when LeBron didn't have it going at all times, or like when LeBron's off the floor, you gotta give me something, bro. Like you gotta do something. And here's what I'm gonna say, and I'll go and pass it to you after this. This is probably the most, and I know they just gave him a contract extension, Rob Pelinka. This is the most important offseason that he's going to have throughout his tenure on the Lakers because I'm telling you right now, if he plays around, LeBron might retire. There's going to be three things that can happen. LeBron's either going to retire, LeBron's either going to request a trade and try to go to somewhere like Golden State, or you're going to mess around and lose Luka Doncic. And then you're going to look like a
Yep.
total moron. Because it's like when
Yep.
people don't realize this, trust me, I think Luka Doncic wants to stay on the Lakers long term. I think that, if he can get his shape, there's no reason why the Lakers can't win a championship or two under Luka Doncic being the man there. But on the flip side, what's stopping Luka Doncic after this season from saying, let me go team up with Jokic? They're best friends anyway. What's stopping him
Yep.
from doing that? If Rob Pelinka doesn't make the right moves, because that's the thing. The Mavericks, that team was catered to Luka Doncic. That's why they made the finals. Like, they played to his strengths. Literally, the recipe for success with Luka Doncic is give him a lob threat, give him a rim threat, and just surround the floor with shooters and dudes that can space the floor and one or two good perimeter defenders. It's not rocket science. In my opinion, we already have Vando. We have Dorian Finney-Smith. You better go get a big this offseason, and you better go get somebody that can shoot the basketball. I'm not talking about, and that's the thing, what's upsetting. And I'm going to throw J.J. Redick in here real quick. Why does Dalton Connect not get no burn in the playoffs?
I agree.
Why is Jordan Goodwin not getting no more burn in the playoffs? Why is Gabe
Why
Vincent
is
not playing in
Gabe
the
Vincent-
second half of a playoff game? So J.J. Redick has some stuff to learn from this, but in his defense, the brother didn't even have a big man. Jackson Hayes was sorry. I'll go and pass it over to you.
So here's what I will say. There are a couple of things that are at play, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And my thought process, my mindset about Rob Pelinka has not changed. It didn't change at the beginning. Remember, I told you in December.
You
This
did?
was gifted to him. I kept telling you. You were like, well, Dad, I think he's gonna. Nope. I still don't trust him. This was gifted to him. And before it's all said and done, if Rob Pelinka doesn't do the right things in the offseason, like you said, go get a big man, go get a wing guard who can shoot and who can defend. If he doesn't do those two things, number one, Nico Harrison is going to look like the genius in this because I guarantee you AD will come back in better shape. I guarantee you AD will. We all know what the injuries look like, but with Kyrie back on that team and with AD and the big men that they have pieces. They'll actually be one of the teams who can come out of the West, and he won't look like the idiot that people are claiming that he is. He's
I
going to
agree.
actually look like a genius because Rob Pelinka was gifted this. He hasn't proven to me that he's a good GM
Yep.
yet. He simply has not. People will say, well, he got DFS and, we got Vando. I'm just simply telling you, he hasn't done enough to move the needle as a GM. And you're the
Facts.
GM of the Lakers. I'm sorry.
He's now the
So
president of basketball operations as well.
that's what I'm saying. But as the GM, he hasn't proven that. He was gifted that title simply because of the Luca trade. But if Luca's not going to play defense, and again, Nico is beginning to look like a genius because there were some very, very pivotal plays where Luca wasn't playing defense that could have swung the game one way or the other. Let's just call it what it is. So I'm waiting to see what Rob Pelinka does in the offseason. Because to your point, I think if he doesn't make the right moves, Luka can look at that and say, "Yeah, I'm not staying here. You haven't put the right pieces around me." LeBron can look at it and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna retire. I don't need to stay here and look and see the same crap over and over and over again each year, year
Yep.
after year after year." And no, and then the other part, yes, JJ Redick did a great job coaching, but that was a masterclass that happened with the
Chris Finch.
Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Chris Finch. That was a master class. It actually was. He coached circles around him, and so the fact that he has an experience in the playoffs, it showed. And I know he had the assistants on the sideline, but JJ Redick strikes me as the type with he strikes me as the type that yeah, I'm going to listen to what you guys have to say, but at the end of the day, I'm going to make the final decision. And some of the decisions that he made were not good ones.
I agree. And
They lost
I
the
will
game
say
because he
this.
played.
No, I was gonna
Well, I was
say
just gonna
this.
say this last thing.
No, you go
This
ahead.
last thing, they lost the game because he played dudes way too long. You
Facts.
didn't give dudes. You didn't play like you said. Gabe Vincent, who has been honestly, I mean, you know how I felt about
Yeah,
that whole.
he was playing like he was in Miami again.
He
The second
absolutely
half of the
was.
season.
Dalton Connect could have made some of those wide open jump shots that
Come on,
were
man.
being missed. I mean, come on, man. Come on, that's what he does. And you don't give him any burn. And the fact that Jackson Hayes didn't get any run, but Alex Lynn is your backup center. Jemison and what's the other dude's name?
Koloko.
Kokolo? Koloko. I always mess that dude's name up. I'm sorry. Um, the fact that those dudes weren't playoff on the playoff roster says everything to me.
Yep.
And you have Alex Lynn on your playoff roster, but you don't even play him.
Here's what I'm gonna say. If Rob Pelinka don't go out there and get a Claxton, a Cam Johnson package, a Bam Adebayo, a Walker Kessler, or somebody, and I love Austin Reeves. You know I love that brother. But at this point, he's up for trade. Him, Rube.
Yeah, he's not untradeable
The
anymore.
only
I'm
two
sorry.
untouchables on this roster, there's three untouchables to me. It's DFS, LeBron, and Luka. Outside of them, and I kind of want to throw Vando in there, but if we got to package him to get a Bam or a Walker Kessler or a Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson, you better make something shake. And here's what I'm going to say, too. With that mid-level exception, you better go get you a backup point guard because there's no excuse for, like, prime example. I saw what Chris Dunn did for the impact he had for the Los Angeles Clippers this offseason. Why can't you go find him or a Dennis Schroeder or somebody like that can be a good, solid backup point guard for the Lakers? You need that. Because Luka's going to need to rest at some point. LeBron's going to have to rest at some point. You know what I'm saying? So
I do.
We didn't even have a backup point guard, if you really think about it.
You're right. Gabe Vincent was the backup point guard, but he ain't getting any run.
We didn't have a backup point guard, and Gabe Vincent is a shooting guard. If we keep it in the state, he's an undersized shooting guard. So you didn't have a backup.
Austin Reeves starting, so he's not.
You didn't have a backup point guard nor big. That's bad ball.
Exactly. That's terrible ball.
Yes, sir.
All right, we beat that dead horse. It's over and done with. He's glue now. Let's do a rapid fire NBA playoffs round 2 predictions. Jameson, I'll let you start. You want to start with the East?
Yeah, we'll go East. So Knicks and Celtics. I'm gonna be honest. I got the Celtics in 7 games. I think that's gonna be a really interesting series. I think it's gonna be a really great series. I just think it's gonna boil down to the Peyton Pritchards, the Derek Whites of the world. I just don't think the Knicks. They have the star power, but the role players just aren't on the same level as the Celtics role players. That's what I think it's going to come down to.
I don't disagree. And I also will say, and I'm going to just throw this in, Tom Thibodeau, JJ Redick was doing some Tom Thibodeau stuff the other day.
Facts.
I mean, playing dudes 48 minutes, literally 48 minutes. Yep. Like literally the dude played 48 minutes.
Yeah.
He's doing some Tom Thibodeau stuff. Tom Thibodeau doesn't trust his bench enough. Their bench is not deep enough.
No, it's not.
So I'm actually going to say Celtics in 6.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
I like that.
Celtics in 6. Yeah.
Next series, we got the Cavs and the Pacers, and I haven't seen the outcome of game 1. I know it was actually on while we recorded this episode. But here's what I'm going to say, man. And you know I've been high on the Cavs, but I actually got the Pacers at 7, man. I know that sounds crazy, but I've just been watching the games, and Pascal Siakam, that brother's been on another level, and it's like, I just think matchup-wise, you have Miles Turner, you got Nembhard, and it's also the way that they play basketball. It's like their pace of play. I get the Cavs have some young guns, but at the same time, I'm like, if the Cavs aren't knocking down perimeter threes and they're not getting stops in transition, the Pacers can run away with a lot of those games. And I think realistically, all they need to do is just steal one of the first 2 games in Cleveland. if they can do that and go back to Baker's Fieldhouse and go crazy, which I think they will, I think they can beat them in 6 or 7 games. And I know that sounds crazy because I've been high on the Cavs. I've been high like Snoop Dogg on the Cavs the whole year. But the Pacers just what I've seen from them in this playoffs, and it's like Tyrese Halliburton is finally playing like he's not overrated no more in my opinion. The way that brother's been playing, Pascal Siakam, he's been one of the most underrated superstars in all of basketball this entire season. He's not being talked about enough. So I have the Pacers in 7.
I have a 7 game series, but I have the Cavs.
Okay.
And the reason I have the Cavs is because I think that, at the end of the day, you have to have a dude who can go get you a bucket, who can, who is a difference maker, who is a superstar. And in a game when the game is close, Donovan Mitchell is that guy. So in a 7 game series, when the game is close, I see Donovan Mitchell being able to take over and do what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So I think also their the big matchup. I mean, they've got both teams have good bigs. There's no question. But I think if Mobley comes to play,
He's
and
the X
Mobley,
factor.
he is an X factor, and I just think when the game is on the line, you need a bucket. I trust Donovan Mitchell at this point.
And I will say, I know Darius Garland wasn't playing game 1. I'll add that in there.
Okay, well, so that's one to your point that they may be able to steal. But
Yeah.
I think if it goes 7, I just trust Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
All right, keep going.
And then going out west, we have the Thunder and the Nuggets. I'm gonna say this: I got the Thunder in 6 games. I get it, there's Jokic, but also it's like the Thunder beat the Grizzlies so bad they've been on spring break. They've literally had like 2.5 weeks off the rest before they even played the Nuggets, and it's like the Nuggets just literally came off of a grueling series against the Clippers. So, and here's what I'm gonna say: this Thunder team, they have better depth, and then on top of that, it's like you saw the problems that Zubac gave Jokic throughout this series. I know Jokic still got his, but you now have Hardenstein and Chet Holmgren to go up against. So then you have Jalen Williams off the bench. I'm not talking about Jada. I'm talking about the other Jalen Williams.
The other Jalen, yes.
And then I'm going to just keep it a stack with you. They don't have KCP or Bruce Brown. Who in the world is guarding Shea?
Thank you.
That's what I want to. Shea going to average 35. No trouble.
Because Jamal Murray is getting ready to get manhandled.
Ooh. They're going to put that Lou Dort monster on him. Oh, my goodness. They're going to put that Lou Dort monster. Woo-hoo.
Absolutely.
So that's the thing. Jokic is the runner-up for MVP, so I'm not about to sit out there and disrespect them and say they're going to get swept. It's going to go 6 games. But I got the Thunder winning that series.
Same. I don't even have anything to add.
Okay.
Thunder, 6.
Sounds good. And then the next series is going to be the Timberwolves, and they're going to face the winner of the Rockets and Golden State tonight. So, speaking of that, first off, who do you have winning the Rockets-Warriors game? I'll go and tell you mine. I hate to say this because I love me some Steph Curry, but I got the Houston Rockets winning. Similar
this game is in Houston, right?
Yes, sir, in Houston. Similar to the Lakers series, Ime Udoka has flat out outcoached Steve Kerr. Some of the adjustments that he's made, it was so bad.
Adams.
It was Steven Adams and then Fred VanVleet. That brother has looked like Steph Curry against the Warriors. I'm telling you, between him and Steven Adams looking like Wilt Chamberlain last game, I got the and that's the thing. They're doing all this in spite of Jalen Green having an absolute stinker of a first-round series. Jalen Green due for at least a 25, 30-point game in Game 7. So, with all that said, I got the Rockets winning Game 7. And then I have them losing to the Timberwolves in 6 games.
Okay. We are on the same page, literally. I've got the Rockets winning. I just think that their style of play, I mean, listen, you can say what you want to say. Ime Udoka, you and I talked about it before they hired JJ Redick. I said, well, I don't know if that could work because he and LeBron just didn't get along when they played.
Facts. And
since he's been a head coach. But, man, Ime Udoka is a very, very good coach.
Special.
He is right now, he's literally top tier.
Yeah.
When you think about the league, who the head coaches are, I'm putting him in the top 5. I really am. So
if they get Kevin Durant this offseason, there's no reason why the Rockets can't be in the Western Conference Finals next year.
Oh, I think if they get Kevin Durant, they will be.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. So I've got the Rockets winning tonight, and then I have them losing to the Timberwolves.
And shout out to that Amen Thompson monster. I think he's gonna be a difference maker in Game 7.
The Thompson twins have been balling out this year.
They really have. I've been impressed.
They've been special.
Yes, sir. And then last, I was going to transition this to our moving the needle for the week. Um, I can go and start off. My move in the needle was two quick ones. First off, I said it earlier, is Anthony Edwards. I think right now he might be the best basketball player in the world. And I get it. I know there's Jokic. I know there's Shea. But Anthony Edwards, brother, is special. He's box office. And then my second move in the needle is the WNBA is back. The preseason basketball started over the last couple of days. I'm really hyped for this season. I think with a lot of the free agency moves and the Paige Becker's getting drafted, a lot of the the top players in this incoming draft class, I think this could be an even better season than the WNBA had last year. So I think they can just continue to build on the momentum that they established towards the end of last year. But what's your move in the needle, sir?
Yep, I actually have two as well. My moving the needle is the WNBA, so I'm kind of stealing yours. I'm excited to see them back. It's already getting chippy. I mean, it's
In
fun
the
to watch. I've already,
preseason.
I mean, in the preseason, it's already getting chippy. It's fun to watch. My other move in the needle is around women's basketball as well, and it's Courtney Banghart. She is quietly, and pretty soon it's not going to be so quiet. She is quietly building a roster that folks are going to have to stand up and pay attention to. Nyla Brooks, she went out and got. There's the number one player in the country who is strongly considering Carolina. There's another 5 star that she is has targeted. This team is going to be scary next year. So normally we only hear about South Carolina. Next year, I think the Lady Tar Heels in North Carolina are going to make some noise. So I think folks need to pay real close attention to what Courtney Banghart is building in Chapel Hill. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yes, sir.
All right,
I agree.
that's it. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the J&J podcast. We appreciate everybody listening in. We'll see you next week, same